This week's species is found throughout all of Florida, and they can be found in a variety of different types of habitat, like under oyster bars, mangroves, or even in creeks. My favorite place to find them is on the flats, and we're talking about redfish here on the Florida Insider Fisher Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, and welcome to August. You know, everyone loves this week's species, including our special guest from CCA, but who loves redfish most of all? It's this guy, Captain Rick Murphy.
I certainly do, man. Redfish, I just love that no matter where you go in Florida, they are everywhere, and they are caught in a variety of different ways, which I'm really looking forward to our captains telling us how they like to catch them in their regions.
Exactly. Well, you have quite the history with these beauties, but before we see where we're reeling in some reds first, let's say hi to Dave Farrell and our Captain Ronnie Houston at the CCA workbench. Are you a silent partner over there today, Dave, or what?
Oh, I'm going to be very silent. We're going to let him go through he's got 5 different techniques that we're going to use to catch redfish with today.
We're going to keep it simple tonight. We could fill this whole table with baits to catch redfish, but I'm going to give you the 5 primary baits I would use anywhere in the state of Florida for me to find redfish.
There you go.
Perfect. There you go. All right, the Real Legend Central East region is up first with some great news for the redfish community. Tell us about them upcomers, Jim.
Well, I'll tell you, Brie, we've been a destination for many, many years for giant redfish tailing on the flats. But in the recent years, we've had some degradation to our estuaries. And so we don't have the numbers of fish that we used to have. However, we're seeing a change. We're seeing the eastern side of the Mosquito Lagoon right now, and there's some really good redfish action going on there. It's been incredible. The barrier island it got broken through in the last hurricane and pushed a bunch of seawater into the south end of that particular body of water, and it's really helped to rejuvenate the seagrasses there. Now, this is exactly what the lagoon needed after years and years of constant pollution destroying that pristine estuary. So it's really good to see that Mother Nature trying to fix what man has done. She's trying to undo it, and we thank her every day for it. But I'll tell you what, you can get out there and you can see tailing fish during the mornings, during the evenings, especially after the afternoon rains. Anytime it gets slick calm, and you can see fish cruising over the top of that grass, waking along on top. So it's come back to what the Mosquito Lagoon of old was. And most of those fish are in that 20 to 30 inch range, but we've got giants here. We've got 45 and 50 inch fish that you can push pole up to and throw a saltwater assassin shad or vapor shad or the new little P&V plastic dart. They seem to really like that for some reason. It imitates something that they eat out there. And you rig that weedless, and I'll tell you what, it's been absolutely just some great fishing in the Mosquito Lagoon here the last 3 or 4 months. I've got a photo here of Captain Justin Ross with one of those Mosquito Lagoon giants. And you can, when they almost go gunnel to gunnel, you can say that's a pretty good sized redfish.
Yes, you can. All right, tell us about the tarpon, Bubba.
Yeah, we got tarpon in the flats too, Rick, and I know you love them as much as I do. Now, most of these tarpon are running 25 to 70 pounds. They're schooling in the Indian and Banana Rivers right now. You want to target them around the ICW channel by freelining live pogies or medium-sized mullet on 50 to 60 pound fluorocarbon leaders and about a 5/0 or 6/0 circle hook. You can also run a saltwater assassin shad or the vapor shad in a 5/0 hook and just run it right up through the nose early and late in the day, and you can pull that through those schools of tarpon and get hits on those soft plastics. Captain Justin says alewife, smoking shad, and Houdini are the ones that he's been doing best with this past week. And I've got a tarpon here, tarpon photo here with Justin with one of his young clients out hooking his first tarpon on a nice vapor shad the other day.
Nice. Let's go offshore, bub.
Grouper, man, Captain Greg Rapp was telling me, the sea leveler fleet has been out there crushing it. There's a little bit of cold water here and there, not enough to really disturb everything just yet, but if you drop and you're not getting bit or the fish are marking high in the water column here in the Real Legends region, move to another area where you can mark them down on the bottom where you would normally see them. Right now, they're getting good gags, good scamp grouper, and they're fishing from 180 to about 250 feet of water. Greg says that live pogies, croakers, and grunts are working really good for all those species right now, and some of them are pushing that 30-pound range. So you know, it's a pretty good time to be out there catching some of those grouper right now. Got a photo here of Captain Joey Alvarez on the charter boat Seize the Day from the Sea Leveler fleet, and he had Stephen Tran with this nice scamp that they caught on a live pogie out in 200 feet of water. Nice. And then my last species is mangrove snapper. And they've been spawning right now, so there's some really big ones being caught. The high relief structure is holding the mangroves better than the wrecks are right now, but you can still find them on a couple of the wrecks, like the lead wreck, the Mana Camp, a few of the 90 to 135 feet is where you're going to want to look for these fish. And if you use a little bit bigger chunk, not quite as big as you would use for a grouper, but a little bit bigger chunk than you would normally use like on a 2-drop chicken rig, you'll get some of these mangroves, and some of them are pushing 10 pounds right now. Sea Leveler Captain Joey Alvarez and Tawny Redwine have got a nice picture here of one that they caught on a live croaker the other day in 100 feet of water outside Port Canaveral. So there's some good chunky mangroves out there to be had right now.
Man, yeah, some big fish this week in your region this week. Thank you so much, Jim. We're going to go and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots from the Central East region. Our man Jim says inshore redfish in the grass on the eastern side of the Mosquito Lagoon. Free line live pig or shrimp, pigfish or shrimp, or use weedless hooked saltwater assassin little PVs in the watermelon red flake for fish up to 34 inches. And then offshore gag groupers and big mangrove snappers above all the high relief structure in 100 to 180 feet of water. Use live pogies on a knocker rig or a standard bottom rig. What do you think?
All right, well, obviously, next up, we have Captain Ronnie Houston from the Casa Vieja Southwest region live in the studio with us. Ronnie, happy to have you with us. Now let's hear what your region has to offer when it comes to finding our star species this week.
Well, obviously, the redfish, you know, they can be caught throughout the region all year round. Now, to the north from Estero Bay to Gasparilla, the topography is totally different. Vast number of flats, grass, edges, potholes, and troughs. Ideal sight fishing at lower water. But to the south, we do at times sight fish at the lower water, but mostly along shorelines or shorelines of oyster bottom, oyster bar points. But the time is limited on the southern end of the region due to low water and due to the tides. You're very limited. Also, the southern portion of the region, we don't have the grass filter like they do to the north. But in both cases, when the water gets high, fish go to the mangroves. So get the baits tight or up underneath makes a big difference to draw the fish out. For example, cut baits with scent, live pilchers chum to draw the fish out, golden silver spoons for brivation and flash. Noise-making corks will also draw the fish out, as well as topwater walk-the-dog lures tight to the mangroves. And probably the best time to fish lower water will be around your full moon phase or late fall through winter with the passing of fronts, and there's nothing getting to that east to northeast flow, which is going to make the tides lower, which will give you plenty of time to figure the fish out and pattern them on where they go up to high water. And I have a nice picture of Keegan Wilder. I ran into Troy Pruitt on the water on Saturday. He was fishing Keegan. This is Keegan's first redfish on his first trip, a nice 32-inch redfish. Good job, Troy and Keegan. On the inshore report, the snook. Still great opportunity to catch oversized fish and possibly your personal best to the south from Goodland down the Lostman's River. Areas to concentrate on will be passes, points, areas of deadwind and blowdowns. Good moving water is going to be your key, combined with mid to lower tides. When the tide floods right now to the south, the bite can be difficult. So I strongly suggest cut bait on the bottom, live pinfish, live herring and pilchards, or large topwater walk-the-dog lures, as well as big swim baits, 5 to 8 inch. And I've got a nice picture of a fish that was just recently caught with me from my buddy in Dade County, Michael Tucker. Nice oversized snook. On the offshore side, we're going to go with the permits. You know, you want to fish the wrecks, towers, and artificial reefs from Marco to Fort Myers Beach. Still, without having much rain and light winds, the water is still clean. So look for these fish to be on top. Perfect for sight fishing right now. If you don't see them on top, keep an eye on your bottom finder and make several drifts in and around the structure, or anchoring up and letting the baits drift with the current, free lined on top, or just enough weight to get below the surface. And I've got a nice picture of a huge permit that was recently caught in the last couple days. These guys are fishing these permit on these wrecks. They're using 8,000 series reels. These permit are bending out 4 to 5/0 circle hooks. So I strongly suggest 6 to 8/0 circle hooks and 80-pound leaders. Last species is going to be the cobias. Towers and wrecks from Marco south down towards Highland Beach. Now report still with the light winds. We still got clean water because we don't have a lot of rain. There are some groups of fish, good numbers, as well as pods of fish on top with great opportunity to sight cast these fish. During the week, it's been best when there's less boat pressure. The weather's been nice. Notice a lot of guys running offshore chasing cobias or permits. Here you go again. Anchor up or drift in and around the structure. If you don't see the fish on top, dropping down or freelanding live herring, pilchards, pinfish, bucktails, artificial shrimp and eels, or large swim baits. And here's a nice picture of a cobia recently caught while fishing offshore down south.
Nice. All right, Ronnie.
Thank
Well,
you.
we appreciate you coming into the studio and certainly helping Dave over at the workbench here shortly, so appreciate it.
Well, Dave needs all the advice he can for fishing on the east coast of Mosquito Lagoon. So hopefully what I tell him tonight, he can use over there and catch some of them redfish.
All right,
That's
bud,
right.
thank you. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Serenity Bait Company's hotspots before Ronnie gets in trouble. Inshore, mangrove snappers, Marco de Estero, intercoastal docks, seawall, rock jetties, deadwood, and blowdowns, chumming live with live pilchards and using live and cut shrimp. And then offshore, red snappers, Marco to Fort Myers Beach in 160 to 250 feet of water using live and cut baits. Good moving current has been the best for a good bite.
All right, well, our front runner boats Northeast Region captain is next up and is jonesing for some redfish action. But Dave and Ronnie are going to get you ready for the action at the CCA workbench for Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques. He needs all the help he can get over there.
Yeah, I do. And he's the guy to help me.
Yes, he is.
He's just not here right now.
Right,
He will be there.
He's already in trouble.
He took off.
We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather. Fish mapping. Entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Shallow Sport. Legendary performance. Scoozy Performance Footwear, the captain's choice for premium lightweight comfort. And Daiquiri Deck, food, drinks, friends.
Yeah, we're here at the CCA workbench for Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques, and Ron Houston is going to tell us a little bit about catching the redfish.
Well, the way I look at it is this. We could fill this whole table up with baits.
Yes, sir.
And talk about catching redfish on different baits for an hour.
We could.
But I try to keep it simple. A
Yes.
couple rods on the deck, a couple different baits is how I make it work.
We're going to go through 5 things, so go ahead and start with the rod and reel, I guess.
So generally anywhere from a 3,000 to a 4,000 series reel, 20-pound braid. I like a stiffer rod, not as flimsy as the tip. So 7 foot to 7'3" will suffice for fishing for the redfish.
All right.
When it comes to the bait, here's what I try to do. I use a lot of noise-making baits and flash, but one of the most important things is whenever I throw a bait out, I got 180 degrees peripheral. So not only is the bait out in front of me, but I'm also scanning and listening to my bait.
Right.
Also, 360 degrees around the boat using my ears. So I might hear a pop, a bust, or something behind me, a slurp, I can turn around. But some of the baits that I use is...
Topwater. We're going to start with topwater
I love
first.
the top waters. You know, the 120 Jaywalker. Now, at times, they might not engulf the bait, but you'll see them boiling up behind you. You'll
Right.
see them trying to eat the bait. You know what
Their
I'm saying?
mouth's underneath, so they got to, it's kind of hard for them to get it sometimes.
But I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to attract them. I'm trying to get it to it. Normally, when the bites aren't really good, they're engulfing it. But when I
Right.
have that problem with the bigger top water, I just simply grab another rod and
Smaller.
downsize
Right.
to the smaller Jaywalker.
The smaller ones have a smaller profile.
Right.
The head doesn't lift the bait out of
Right.
the way.
It's not as buoyant.
Right.
So here I am. I'm getting no luck. I downsize. I start catching fish. But a couple other things I like to do is nothing beats a noise-making cork.
Right.
I learned this a lot fishing Louisiana and Texas. I applied it to the southern end of the region. I'll troll the motor down the shoreline and fish this like I'm fishing a lure. I'll cast it along the shoreline, pop, 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 stop, pop, 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 stop, keep moving down the shoreline. You'd be surprised what this will do. And I like the chartreuse, soft plastic with a chartreuse jig head. He's zoned in on the sound.
Right.
But when he gets there, 18 to 24 inches a leader, where's it at if I'm not moving it? The chartreuse stands out. Normally he'll grab the bait.
And you like to have the paddle tail versus anything else?
Like the paddle tail.
I got you.
So you got the noise and the vibration. Another thing I like is the spoons, a variety of Johnson spoons.
The gold spoon has caught millions of redfish.
I'll tell you what.
Caught my first one, I believe.
Since I was a little kid, I'll start with the bigger ones, depending upon what the size of the bait is. If I'm not catching them on this, then I'll downsize maybe to a quarter. I do like a ½ ounce. I can get it out there further, get more wobble, but sometimes I got to downsize and go to the quarter.
Do you ever put swivels on them? Or?
You know, I do. I use a small swivel like you'll see on this one. I do have a swivel on this one for the line twist. But a lot of times you can use a loop knot.
I gotcha.
Another thing I like to do is roaming mullet, roaming fry bait, schools of bait. Nothing beats a paddle tail. So I'm not trying to bounce the bottom with this one. I'm trying to bring it through the bait, keeping it off the bottom. The vibration and bringing it through the schools of mullet or fry bait.
Just a steady retrieve.
Just a steady retrieve. That tail, that wobble, will send off a vibration coming through them bait schools. They'll eat the bait. But when I'm trying to bounce the bottom, this little Bass Assassin P&V, if you notice here,
the Ned rig.
I've got a Ned head. So normally this fall through winter up in the northern end of the region where there's a lot of potholes, trough, and sand, I'm not trying to bounce the bottom. I'm trying to come through. But if the fish are in the troughs or in the potholes, this Ned head stands straight up. Now I'm trying to puff the sand. Trying to puff the sand. Trying to puff the sand from pothole to pothole to pothole. So this new little bait right here, this 3.5, combined with a Ned head, I'm already catching fish on it, but I see fall through winter. This is going to be a big game changer for catching redfish on the soft plastic.
Beauty.
And probably one of the most easiest things I like to do to suggest to anybody, I do it down in my end of the region, nothing beats a knocker rig. Okay, I always try to stay in stock at Serenity Bait and Tackle. I'll go in there and buy these baits right here, these finger mullets, a case at a time, because they do go quick. I keep stocking my freezer out in the garage, so when I myself have a tough time finding redfish, I buy these finger mullet.
Cut the tail off.
Now, as you can see, they're still frozen. I keep them frozen the whole time on the boat. So that way, when I go hook one of these with a circle hook, right, it's frozen. So what'll happen is the bait is frozen. It's not soft from laying in the sun. I can throw this bait a lot further, being that it's hard and frozen. I see Murphy over there looking at me. I see this bait out there, throw it out there frozen. When it gets in the water, then it starts to defrost. So now you got more scent going out into the water. And if I'm looking to find some redfish and I'm having a tough time, nothing beats a frozen finger mullet on a knocker rig.
The fish will come to it.
They'll come to you.
We're all done.
All right?
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Never too old to learn.
Gotta love to hear some stuff from Ronnie.
By the midnight, I got another one of his tricks.
Uh-oh, you can't stop him.
Nope.
All right, well, we all know our captain, Tommy Derringer, in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region, is no stranger to the red fishing lifestyle. So, Tommy, I know you're excited for this one. Let's hear it.
Hey, my favorite fish, Brie, you know it. And you got, hey, this is a good time to rewind the show, listen to what Ronnie said, because that dude knows how to catch some redfish. But yes, we have redfish here in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region. My favorite go-to fish all year round. You can catch them anytime. You know, we have a great redfish fishery here, and there's so many ways to catch redfish in my region. You know, not just in the backcountry, flats and creeks. That gets all the glory, but, you know, you can catch them on the jetties, off the piers, from the beach, on the nearshore wrecks. You know, really, anywhere there's some salt water, you're going to catch a redfish. Now, kind of like the kingfish that we talked about last week, one really great thing about the redfish is that anglers from, you know, the pro level, like Rick Murphy, all the way down to the kid who's never fished before, they can really enjoy catching some redfish. And you know what? Once you catch one, I can promise you, you're going to be hooked on red fishing. You know, they pull like bulldogs, and they definitely will give your drag a workout. Now, this weekend, we have some low water first thing in the morning, and then some negative low tides in the afternoons, great redfish tides. Get out at first light, look for busting fish in the backs of the creeks and on the edges of the flats or the ICW. That's going to be a good bet. Now, I like to have my anglers toss a Saltwater Assassin Elite Shiner in that Mama's 14K. Rick's holding it right there. That is a killer bait right there. That little paddle tail matches the size of the minnows and the small shrimp that are all over the creeks and the flats right now. And it also makes for a really nice soft presentation to those backing and busting fish without spooking them. Now the reds, they're also going to be in the creek holes on that negative tide later in the day if you can stand the heat. Now all you need for that is a simple rig, a live shrimp or a mud minnow pinned to a 1/4 ounce jig head. Fish that rig right along the bottom, really slow, right through the deeper creek holes on the low tide stage. You're going to find some hungry redfish in there. Now, we also have a fantastic bull red fishery in our region, especially up there in Jacksonville in the St. Johns River. Those big bulls are going to start to show up pretty soon. They like to hang out through the late summer months, but definitely into the fall. You know, if you're catching those big fish, just remember, handle them with care. Make sure to revive them. Make sure they swim away really nice and healthy. And I've got a picture here. This is Joe Nelms with a pretty redfish that he sight fished with me. He was using that Saltwater Assassin Elite Shiner paddle tail.
Nice.
Pretty fish for Joe there.
Yes, sir.
And also inshore, guys, the tarpon bite continues to be good. You know, the bigger tarpon, they're still in the pogie pods along the beach this week. Some mornings the bait and the tarpon haven't really been showing themselves until the sun comes up a little bit. But if you can find some tarpon before that, at first light there, they have been very hungry at that time of day. And we've had some days where we've been tossing the R&R tackle line through swim baits to some rolling fish, and they are absolutely smashing that one you have in your hand right there, Rick. They are killing that thing. But they're also going to eat some free line and floated pogies as well. And you could really, one thing about that swim bait I really like is you can make really accurate casts to those rolling or busting fish, which sometimes can be hard with a live bait. Now, the average size of the tarpon has been on the extra large size, quite a few fish over the 100-pound mark hanging around right now. And speaking of big fish, I got another picture here. My good buddy, Justin Anderson from Historic Coast Outfitters, he sent me this picture of Brian Ennis with a big old tarpon that they caught right along Jacksonville Beach last week. Nice fish there, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm moving offshore. Mutton snapper and the mangrove snapper as well. You know, they're grouped up right now over the structures in about 120 to 140 feet. The mangoes, they're still somewhat schooled up, even after this full moon. Chumming is always a really effective way. But you know what? Most of the offshore captains I've talked to this week tell me it's hard to get past the red snappers, but you can do it. Chum with some chunk sardines, then just float a small chunk of that sardine back on a smaller circle hook. And if you're patient enough, you're going to get through those red snapper and find some nice mangoes and possibly some mutton snappers as well. And also offshore, the kingfish, they're definitely still king as far as offshore targets go this week. They're being caught like crazy in about 30 to 50 feet of water all along the beach throughout the region. And they're on the offshore wrecks as well. The usual slow trolled pogies, ribbon fish, or diving lures and spoons are going to get the job done. The King of the Beach Kingfish Tournament is happening this weekend, and I know there's going to be some big fish weighed in. And I've got one last photo here. Love this picture. Paul Dozer sent me this picture of AJ and Penn's Simonetta along with Bradley Dozier, and that's Penn's 15-pound kingfish. Got him a second place in the kids' back-to-school Kingfish Derby. It also just so happened to be his very first fish he ever caught, which is pretty awesome.
That is
love that.
really awesome, and those little guys are getting ready to get their butts back to school.
So awesome.
A lot of
That's
mamas
right.
and dads love that too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Great report this week. As we're going to go ahead and take a look at the strike zone hotspots from the Northeast region. Tommy says the tarpon and the bait pods along the beaches throughout the region, and then offshore, kingfish in 30 to 60 feet of water, slow troll, a live bait or plug at various depths, Brie.
All right, well, like Tommy mentioned, it's your last chance to sign up for the North Florida King of the Beach tournament this weekend, August 5th, sponsored by Frontrunner Boats with over $350,000 in cash and prizes. The first place, largest king, wins a 26-foot Frontrunner boat. That's awesome. For more information and to get registered, go to nfkingofthebeach.com, and you better hurry up. All right, the Startron Central West and Sea Sucker Panhandle regions are schooling up for us next. Plus, we have some very exciting news from our friend with CCA Star, so keep casting, and we'll be right back.
Right.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, Your Fish, Our Science, Bahio Sunglasses, Blue Light Blocking, Radically Clear Lenses, Sea Sucker, Easy On, Easy Off, Incredibly Strong, Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure, Kubota, Together We Do More, Black Oak LED, never be left in the dark, and Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
Well, as you can see, joining me is Captain Lisa Fitzgerald from CCA Star Tournament. And Lisa, you know what? We've got some good news to report. You're holding our object of the evening, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm going to hand them over to you, Rick. I mean,
Redfish with a tag is what Star's all about.
that's what it's all about. And so far, we have 160 of those fish released throughout the coastal waters of Florida. You know, it's been a struggle. We've had 11 that were recaptured, but the 12th one seems to be the ticket.
So tell me about it.
So let me tell you. We had a gentleman call us on the 29th of July.
Right.
He had registered for the competition. He was a CCA member. He landed his fish on a topwater from a kayak. We put him through the verification process. He finished that process today. And that young man, Blake Belts, is our official winner of the CCA Florida Star Tagged Redfish competition. He is our first winner. He has his choice of a contender, a Pathfinder, Carolina skiff, deck cat boat, a Can-Am Defender, or a Sea-Doo. And
What
Blake,
did he choose?
He chose the contender.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about this, Lisa. Where did he catch the fish? Out of what region?
So he caught it out of the northeast region, up in St. Augustine area, and just very exciting because it was a fish that had been recaptured. It was a wild fish that we tagged and placed out, you know, the guy has been in the tournament for 4 years.
Right.
He's won in the kayak division. He's been adamant about being involved with this competition. And I can tell you, when he sent us the pictures, he sent us a video, and this guy was beside himself when he caught this fish.
And he cut the tag off after he got all the verification?
This is how much of a conservationist that he is.
Yeah.
He took the picture of the fish. He cut the tag off the fish because he didn't want to keep a redfish. Redfish are needing our assistance so badly that he released that fish.
Wow, good job,
So,
dude.
yay, Blake.
Way to set the example, Blake. We're really proud of you. Thank you for so much for participating in the Star Tournament. Thank you for coming and telling us all the great news.
Well,
if people want to know quickly, where's the website?
Please don't forget, you still have a month to be involved. It's ccaflstar.com. There are still major prizes to be won. You can catch a tagged redfish and win in the Star competition.
All right.
You just got to be in it to win it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We got to give it to Brie, otherwise we're going to get in trouble.
I'm
Go,
so
Brie,
excited
go,
over
Brie.
here.
How about
That's
Blake?
awesome.
Yay,
Congrats,
Blake.
Blake. Redfish dreams do come true. All right, he may be a trout fisherman from Sarasota, but Captain Jeff Page in the Startron Central West region knows his redfish upside down, inside out, backwards, forwards, and just about any other way you can think of. Go ahead, Page.
You know what? You've caught them with me all 2 or 3 times you've been to the Startron Central West region.
Yes, I have. I know you know what to do. Let's hear it.
And you know what's cool about our region is that depending on what time of year it is, that's the style of fishing that we will be fishing for redfish. You know, this time of year, there's a lot of bait fish in the water, and the redfish is more known for feeding on the bottom, or at least feeding off crustaceans and crabs and shrimp that crawl along the bottom. And that's the way they're designed. But with all the bait in the water, the redfish will come up and actually eat the baits in the mid-column, and they'll hit surface bugs as well. Now, as we get into the fall months, it's not uncommon to find big schools of fish pushed in the bay together. Off the edges, they're not going to be up in a foot of water, but in that 3 to 7 foot edge of flat, like for instance off Emerson Point, Rattlesnake Key, Joe's Island, Long Bar area, and then down in Charlotte Harbor off the bars at Bull and Turtle Bay. Great areas to find schools of redfish in the months to come, September and October. Also, they can be in the Gulf the same way in different size schools. Out 2 to 3 miles, you can find schools of big breeder fish up as big as 40 inches. In along the beach, you can find the fish that we like to find for tournaments, Rick, right up against the shorelines, cruising the beaches. So fall is probably our best month, but then when we get into winter, it's not uncommon to find them under docks like we've done Sportsman Adventures, and use live shrimp, or I like to use a 1/4 ounce gulp shrimp, a 1/4 ounce jig head with a gulp shrimp on it, jigged slowly across the bottom. 1/4 ounce gold Johnson spoons, another really good lure. And then when the fish are a little spooky, but they're still feeding, and you don't have any live bait to throw at them, it's a great lure, the stick shad in the 90 size in the bone pattern, fished very slowly across the top, will sometimes get those finicky fish to eat. Now, my picture tonight, I was going to brag about the guy winning the redfish, but Lee's already got that taken care of. So my picture tonight is of he's not a young anymore, he's a senior in high school, Dylan McDonald, with a nice redfish he got with me not too long ago.
Nice. All right, tell me about inshore tarpon.
Tarpon fishing remains very consistent down in the harbor. Captain Danny Latham and those guys down there have all been catching 2 or 3 every trip they run. A lot of the fish are near the pass, but more of the fish are up in the harbor feeding on the schools of bait, and it can be small hatch bait, it can be threadfin herring. Up my way, Rick, they're catching them at night around the bridges like Cortez Bridge, Longboat Pass Bridge, and New Pass Bridge with live ladyfish or silver mullet. That'll get the job done. And I've got a really cool tarpon picture tonight of 2 happy young anglers with Captain Billy Miller up in South Tampa Bay.
Let's go offshore. Yeah.
Permit. These slick, calm mornings we've been having, it's not uncommon for guys to get out on the reefs anywhere from 3 to 11 miles, and the permit will be on top, finning, live pass crabs that you can usually dip the night before. All the tides this week are good afternoon crab dipping tides. And then you get out to your reefs the next morning, and the permits will be laid up. If they're down a little bit from the surface, you can put a little split shot on your weight. You can put your spot lock on your trolling motor to stay off the reef, and you're going to get your permit. I've got a photo tonight of young Kaylin Capt. That's Stacy Capt's, I think, middle child, Kaylin, with a big permit she got with her dad, Captain Stacy Tightlines Capt.
You got 10 seconds for your grouper, bub.
All right, red grouper. Everybody knows that red grouper. 110 feet on the bottom. And my red grouper photo tonight is from Jason Stock.
You're absolutely right. All right, bud, thank you so much for getting it all in. We're going to take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. He says inshore, holding along the mangrove islands, oyster bars on the west side of Lemon Bay and Stump Pass, live or cut pinfish and mangroves, and 4-inch new penny shrimp and a 1/4 ounce jig head are working best for those mangrove snappers and redfish. And then offshore, permit holding on the 3-mile to 9-mile reefs and wrecks off of Anna Maria. Free line pass crabs are going to be your best bet.
Alrighty, if you're in the Sea-Sucker Panhandle region, you know redfishing is where it's at. So let's have a chat with Captain Pat Deneen on the details for this weekend.
Hey, Brie, I tell you, redfishing is year-round on the Panhandle, and redfish are probably the most sought-after inshore game fish in the Sea-Sucker region. The slot redfish are typically going to be on flats in 3 feet of water or less, which is ideal for sight fishing, and some of the best sight fishing on our flats is fall through spring when we typically have clearer water and shallower tides. You know, you often find them in extremely shallow water where a fly or an but if you're a little bit deeper, if the visibility is not real good, gold spoons are very good search baits for those conditions, when the visibility is limited. If you're looking for the bigger reds, they tend to bunch up in the inlets and around the bridges and along the beaches fall in and on into the winter. And that's where they are right now. They're on the inlet bridges. A live bait on a slip sinker rig is the way to go, with croakers being hands down the bait of choice. And there's a photo of 6-year-old Hudson. He was fishing with Captain Chuck Kemper this past week. Told Chucky that was the best day of his life. So, man, Hudson had a great day.
That's so awesome.
That's pretty cool. Staying inshore, fellas, the mangrove snappers are doing well throughout the Panhandle bays. Mangroves are structure-oriented, so you're going to find them on wrecks and residential docks, bridge fenders, and pilings in 8 to 20 feet of water. Perfect baits for them are small pilchards, which are pretty numerous right now. You can, and be caught with a throw net. Once you get your minnows, a small, light wire circle hook and leaders as light as 10 or 12 pounds is the way to go. You want to free line your bait or use the minimum amount of weight, necessary to keep your bait down, all depending on the current, of course. Chumming with live and dead pilchers will definitely improve the bite. Most of the bay mangroves are 9 to 11 inches, but the bigger ones are typically come from out in the Gulf. And there's a photo of Juliet Brown from Atlanta with a super nice mangrove we picked up on a shallow wreck out in the Gulf this past week. So that was a really good mangrove.
Look at that guy, Santa Claus, she's fishing with. How about that?
Santa Claus.
I know. Don't even look at that, fella. Hey, moving offshore, the amberjacks, they opened up for recreational harvest August 1st. You're going to target them on the large metal wrecks, the Liberty ships, the barges, the tugboats, and really high relief natural bottom in 130 plus feet of water. Deeper spots in 300 plus feet of water are going to often have those bigger fish, and it's all about the bait. You want good, strong swimmers like blue runners, threadfins, and mullets, and small bonitas. If you can keep a small bonita alive, they are particularly deadly on the bigger amberjacks. You want to use 10 feet or more of 60 to 120 pound leader on a slip sinker rig. The longer leaders give your bait plenty of freedom. And then also, if you don't have the baits or you run out of baits, slow pitch and speed jigs are also very effective. And then finally, offshore, Rick, the triggerfish. They also open for harvest in the Gulf August 1st. And triggers are numerous. They're going to be on natural and artificial structures, 70 plus feet of water. They often hang high up in the water column. Use a 2-hook chicken rig baited with cut squid or minnows. And then fish bites are really effective alternative to a natural bait. A whole lot cleaner. They stay on the hook real well, and triggers love to eat them. You want to use a small 1/0 circle hook and enough lead to get down, but you don't need to get to the bottom. Like I said, they kind of hang out in the middle part of the water column, but you're going to definitely have to wade through the smaller throwback triggers to find the leaders, the keepers.
Thank you so much, Pat. Great report. Thank you for all your hard work. The blue water outrigger hotspots in the Panhandle region are inshore. Calm, hot days have been perfect for triple tail fishing in Apalachicola Bay. Run the crab trap buoys and navigational markers and use some small live baits under a float. And then offshore, fill the live well with blue runners and head to a large metal wreck for amberjacks. 200 plus feet of water will be where the bigger jacks are.
And the backaches
And
from
the
that.
backache.
All right, we're
House
reeling
of
in.
Pain
the
starts
House
in
of
200.
Pain. Woohoo. All right, we're reeling in some pretty species in the Yanmar ASB Keys region coming up. But first, Dave is surrounded by pretty over there at the CCA workbench for talking marine new products.
How can that be?
I got cool stuff. I got electronic stuff. I've got shoes. I've got lures. I've got some stabilizer.
Nice.
We got all kinds of stuff.
Perfect. We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Penn, let the battle begin. Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench, and we're going to be trolling the edge with Taco Marine, and we're talking tonight about the Flushmaster.
We're going to talk about the Flushmaster first, which is really cool. This is don't rush the flush, they say. And what this does, it helps you flush out your single outboard, your double outboard, your triple outboard, your quads, whatever many outboards you got. You can use this to flush them one at a time. And what it does is it regulates your time and let you go through and make sure that you know that this motor's been flushed and which one hasn't, so you're not guessing at the end, because you got a little assignment on there that'll tell you which one's doing what and what time, and you can adjust how long you want to flush or whatever. I think it's factory set at 15 minutes. So you can set it and forget it. Hook everything up, hit that button, and go and keep cleaning the boat, doing whatever you got to do, clean the fish, and then when it's done, it'll shut off automatically. You go over there, put it on the other one, boom, hit the button, and off to the races you go. You're getting everything flushed out and not having to stand there and monitor everything, like we have to do now. without the Flushmaster.
Well, the cool part is, Dave, that I love the fact that it comes as a kit.
Yeah.
So when you order this from the guys, you're just going to tell them it's for a twin application, triple application, or quad application.
Mm-hmm.
The great part is, as they said, is you can program it to run as much as you want or as little.
Yep.
And you can go on about your business, and it'll, does one, and then it turns around and does the next one while you're in the bow shammying something.
That's right. That's right.
So really cool job. Where do we go to find it?
Go to seamule.com. They have a lot of other cool stuff you can check out while you're there as well.
That's awesome.
Next, we're going to go to do the Berkeley Juke 128. These are the new sizes for the Jukes.
Right.
New larger size for nearshore applications on larger species. It's got a flat-sided shad body. It darts and flashes back and forth. It's got a precision-tuned rattle inside. It's a shallow suspending bait, so it stays in the zone. I like the suspending baits.
I love this bait.
Do you now?
It's my new go-to if I'm fishing for tarpon, if I'm fishing for snook. And the reason why is I can twitch, and it'll walk the dog under the surface. It'll pause, it'll suspend. I can throw it out, reel it back. It has a real tight action. I mean, it's really one of my favorite Berkeley baits if I'm not fishing topwater.
There you go. It's got the saltwater bait fish patterns on there. And
all the patterns.
The sticky sharp, it's 12 different colors. Sticky sharp 3X anti-rust Fusion 19 treble hooks on there as well.
Nice work.
Go to Pure Fishing to get the Berkeley Juke 128. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the Startron stabilizer, which is the orange one here. Is the fuel storage. They have the start, run, and store system going, so you can keep everything running and stored correctly. And when you're ready to store, this is what you're going to want to use. You're going to want to use the stabilizer because it has the enzyme plus a corrosion resistance together inside of it. So the enzymes, they keep, they prevent buildup and stuff like that, but the corrosion, it keeps everything working right. It keeps all your stuff from getting rusty or messing up over a period of time. This will keep gas for 2 years. You don't have to, wait until you're going to put gas away for 2 years. If you're going to put it away for 4 months or 6 months, or if you got a generator for the hurricanes.
At the end of hurricane season, this is what you want to put in there.
Yeah, exactly. You can put all that, put that in there, and it keeps your generator fuel fresh for up to 2 years, which is a long time.
A Harley in the garage, put it in there.
Right.
Startron.com.
Starbright.com. Starbright.com. Next, we have the Scoozy. This is our new Captain's Choice for premier lightweight and comfort. This is the Del Marina. This is my shoe. So don't get, sticky fingers with it. 6.3 ounces. It's way too big for you. It's half the weight. These things,
really
6.3 ounces is ridiculously light. I mean, these things.
Quick drying mesh.
Correct. Smooth stretch binding construction. There are no seams in the back or anywhere that are going to mess you up. It's real stretchy, water resistant, obviously. They got this full grain leather and little accents on the top. It's all leather. So, and an EVA sole that's non-marking and a really good tread on the bottom, so you're not going to go slip sliding around. Antimicrobial. It's got a removable footbed as well. You can put this in the washer and wash it.
Right. And wash these separately.
Yeah, just make sure you do it on cold. You don't want to wash them in hot.
That's correct.
Up to a size 15. So
they also have a wide.
Yes, that's right. If you have wide feet, these things are great for you as well.
Where do we go to get these?
Scoozy shoes.
And
Captain's Choice for premium lightweight comfort.
Yeah.
These are their athleisure version on my feet right now. I love them. They're super comfy. Anyways, CCA Florida has partnered with Tin Cup Whiskey in an effort to protect the health, habitat, and sustainability of marine resources through conservation and enhancement of coastal environments. So, for every bottle of Tin Cup Whiskey sold in Florida, $1 will go to CCA Florida, which is just amazing. All right, in the Yanmar ASV Keys region, Captain Sarah Stanzik looks like she's been having way too much fun from mini season to bone fishing with the fam. So Sarah, tell us how we can have some fun catching redfish and beyond.
Hey guys, redfish are a common target of the backcountry here in the Florida Keys. So they can be found in Everglades National Park, especially once you get closer to the mainland of South Florida. But we do catch a handful of resident fish in the bays of the upper and lower Keys and around the flats. So they're around the island chain too, but more of them are up in Everglades National Park. So the redfish in these areas are greater in numbers in the fall and winter and when things cool off more. We can get some of the larger redfish occasionally out on the Gulf of Mexico on those wrecks. You know, the big bull reds will be out there. They can get up to 40 pounds or even bigger. They're just not found as frequently as those other ones we catch like in the bay and on the shallows, but occasionally you get them on those wrecks, the big bull reds out there, so that's fun. So many people cite fish for redfish, very shallow backcountry waters, like they tail like similar to what a bonefish would do when they feed. They stick their tail up in the air so you can see them. They are super skittish though, similar to bonefish again, so you have to be stealthy and be quiet and like be a decent cast in front of them, not on top of them, because you'll bomb them and scare them. So as for catching them, you can throw like a soft plastic if it's rigged in a weedless fashion, but of course like a live shrimp or other small bait fish or on a small jig head will work well too. Here's a nice double header redfish picture caught with Capt and Bill back.
Very nice.
Nice. All right, what else you got for us inshore?
Bonefish has still been good. We have extremely warm waters right now. That's all of Florida, but definitely in the Keys too. People have been talking about it. So the bonefish are around. They're up on the flats, and it's cooler. So first thing in the morning or like later before sunset. So if you're going to go for bonefish, just don't go in the middle of the day. It's not as good. Not that there won't be any there, but best chance would be at first light or last light of the day. You know, live shrimp is probably the best bait to cast them. You can also use tiny little live crabs to cast. And, of course, fly fishing for them is challenging and fun. A lot of people target them with fly fishing gear. So you want to look for fish waking in the shallow waters or look for bonefish muds, like the dusty kind of dirty water where they feed, and they'll kick up the mud and make the water kind of dirty. Again, be stealthy and quiet, just like redfish, like they're skittish. They can see you, they can hear you, they can smell you. It's like deer hunting. You just got to be super stealthy and quiet. Camouflage. And I laugh at that because I'm thinking about my daughter Sadie in this picture. You know, she's 5 years old and she stomps around the boat and sings songs and eats snacks. And like, we are not stealthy, but we did catch a bonefish.
You have a 5-year-old in stealth mode. I'm jealous.
No, not on. Well, as you can, that picture, we're on the X3 too. That's a 25-foot boat, and we're up on a flat in less than a foot of water. So
cool.
It's fun.
Cute.
All right, tell us about the offshore.
Offshore mahi, you know, our season started kind of slow with the dolphin bite, but it's been more consistent the past few weeks. So that's a good thing. It's kind of late summer now, but it's still good. So if you're going out to target mahi, you want to head offshore, look for those weed lines and debris floating, look for bait, you know, just look for signs of life, like birds diving down on bait. You want to take a bunch of your own bait, everything from like cut, you know, squid to ballyhoo, and if you have live bait like pilchards or anything like that. So just have a nice mixed variety of bait. Mahi, they're really good to eat. They're fun to catch. They jump out of the water. They're, you know, beautiful colors for taking pictures. Like an all-around like fun fish to target and eat. Here's a nice catch of mahi aboard the Tan Man charter boat.
All right, quickly on the lobster, Sarah.
Oh, you can't make me rush for lobster. Is my favorite. Okay, lobster season is almost here. We just had mini season, which was great. Terrible weather, but we still caught lots of lobster, and they're all really good-sized lobster this year, like healthy, big, nice lobsters. So if you come to the Keys and you want to look for lobster and go on your own, you want to look for some kind of structure like rocks or a crevice, or they like to hide underneath things. They're not just going to be out in the open, really, during the day. So find where they like to hide. Then you need a good pair of gloves, a net, a tickle stick, and you just got to practice. Remember, they spook and they go backwards, so don't put the net in front of them. They got to put it behind their tail.
Tell me about the photo.
Here's a photo from mini season.
Woo!
Nice. Look at that live well full.
And that little dog was like, some of the lobsters were bigger than her.
Cute.
I love it. All right, Bud, we're going to go. Thank you, Sarah and Bud.
Yep.
She's a bud.
All right, Bud. We'll see you later. We're going to take a look at the shallow sport boats. Hot spots from the Florida Keys. Sarah says inshore, the snook bite in the backcountry has been best early in the morning before it gets too hot. Live pilchards are my favorite, or her favorite bait. Target the snook on structure like down trees, creeks, and around the mangrove islands. And then offshore, yellowtail snapper bite is good on the reefs. Anchor in 60 to 90 feet of water. Use lots of chum off of the back of your boat and look for good water movement to make them bite.
Girls can be buds too. All right, Rick, lobster season officially opens on Sunday, and we have an important message from our friends in the Florida Keys, so let's take a look.
All right.
Hi, I'm Captain David Dupre with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and I am very glad you're going to be able to join us for lobster season here in the Florida Keys. We want you to come here for lobster season, but we want you to take care of our Florida Keys. We're very passionate about that, and we love what we have around us. We're going to talk about lobsters and what you can catch and what you should and shouldn't catch. First of all, let's talk about this. Lobsters have a size limit that you have to work with, and we're going to show you how to measure those. You can only have 6 per person per day, and that goes for each person on your boat who is licensed. When measuring the lobster, the important part is to remember that this part right here, the carapace, is one solid piece of skeletal matter. So all you need to do is measure from the very front portion of the carapace to the very back. And in this particular case, if that does not go over, that means that the carapace is greater than 3 inches. That's what you want every time. If the gauge does go over this back portion, then it's undersized and you need to put it back. You may not be in possession of egg-bearing lobster. Underneath the swimmerettes, you will find small little beads, brown or orange in color. Return them to the water right away. While you're going out and about the Florida Keys, you're going to find coral heads. You're going to find all kinds of sea life. Please leave that sea life, those corals, undisturbed. They have the potential to grow and make our reef much better and much stronger than what it is right now, and we want to protect that. Please don't let your fins or your dive gear touch the coral. And while you're going around looking for lobster, please keep your hands and your feet away from the coral. We want to be careful and make sure you understand to be safe out here. Your dive flag. Your dive flag has the potential to save your divers, to keep your divers alive. Put that dive flag up anytime you've got a diver in the water. Thank you for your interest in coming here to the Florida Keys. We ask that while you're here, you connect with the environment and protect the environment as well.
Those are some very good points, right? The Discover Crystal River Northwest and Fish Bites East region have just what you'll need to make your first weekend a successful one in August, so stay with us. But before we go, make sure you scan that QR code. It's an easy way to sign up for our live studio audience Shark Show on August 16th. Plus, it's a one-stop shop to get connected with our Facebook, Instagram pages, as well as our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. And make sure you check out our new website. We'll be right back.
All right.
Woo! Let's go.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
So, Brie, as you know, this time of year it can really be challenging as far as the weather goes, and Sirius XM certainly gives us serious protection.
Let's take a look.
Let's take a look at this package.
Hey, I'm Captain Greg Poland, based out of Islamorada, Florida. We call it the sport fishing capital of the world, and I run a 25 contender bay boat. So I'm on the water a lot down here in the Florida Keys. We have great weather year-round, and I probably spend 250 days a year or more on the water. I run Garmin Electronics with a GXM 54 weather receiver. So guys, a lot of times here in the Florida Keys, you'll be close to shore, but many times running out in the Everglades or even running offshore, you're going to be out of cell service. So having the Sirius XM on the boat just gives you the weather reports everywhere I go in the Florida Keys and the Everglades National Park. When I'm way deep in the Everglades or way offshore, looking at my chart plotter, I can see exactly where there is, whether it's coming in, and just work around it to get back to shore safely. Running a small boat, there's no way to put radar on here, but with Sirius XM, I have better than that. I can see storms way out. I can navigate around dangerous issues. It pops up with warnings all the time, so it stops me from fishing to look over to see what's really going on. So many times we're out fishing and we see these storms, but we don't really know how big they are. So when I see it and I see a lot of lightning bolts pop on the screen, or I get the weather warnings, I know that, you know, it's time to get out of here. And as you'll see from some of my pictures, sometimes we're running in and navigating around the storms. You spend enough time on the water, if you don't have the stuff on your boat, you're really missing the boat. You know, and also I'm in a family-oriented business. I take charters out that could be small children, older people, a little bit of everything. So the big thing in a small boat in the tropics is weather. We're going to have weather, but with the Sirius XM on here, I can navigate around that stuff. I know my clients feel safe. Not only we listen to some good music, but we can stay out of that bad weather. It's easy having Sirius XM. We got everything. I mean, you like rap, you like rock, you like talk radio. What's not to love?
This service gives me total situation awareness to make the right plan. You just can't put a price tag on the peace of mind that SXM weather gives you. When you're out on the water, it's just a no-brainer. I use it every day of my life.
Those are very good points. All right, Jeff Hageman is no stranger to the redfish game in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region. In fact, it's the first fish we caught together. And fun fact, it's the first fish I was in the water with and the only fish that's ever slipped out of my grip and I re-caught with my bare hands underwater. What a rush. A couple years ago. Remember that, Jeff?
I do.
Good days.
Sitting on the back of the boat watching the Key West sunset right now, but we have a ton of redfish in our region, throughout the entire region. They tend to school up more in the spring and the fall. We get those larger numbers of school fish around the grass flats in the spring and the fall, around oyster bars, shell bars, docks, passes. And they can be caught on spoons, jigs, fly, live bait, dead bait. They eat pretty much anything out there. The beginning and incoming tide is a great time to go look for tailors in our region. As the tide gets higher, the fish will get a little less spooky and a little easier to catch. The higher water makes them feel a little more comfortable when you're up there. A trolling motor, even on slow, can spook them, so a stealth approach is always necessary. When fishing the school fish, you want to make long casts. Try not to throw into the school directly. Kind of fish the outside edges, let the fish come to you. There's a little tip to keep you from spooking them, and you'll catch a lot more fish that way than throwing directly into those big schools of redfish. Our fish average anywhere from 27 to 34 inches on those school fish. Also, those big breeders can be caught off the beaches. Usually when the kingfish are here, we have those big breeder redfish offshore, and they get on that hard bottom out there. They're usually underneath frigate birds, and they could be up to 20 to 30 pounds, and that's usually in the spring and the fall run. But I got a photo here of somebody you guys might know with a beautiful West Coast redfish and a beautiful lady.
Tina, there she is.
All right, tell us what else is happening.
Captain Jim Pollard of Big Daddy Sport Fishing is reporting some great snook bite right now, early morning hours before the heat gets going. Captain Jim's catching large numbers of medium-sized snook, and he's also soaking a cut maidenhaven chunk off the edge as he's fishing those smaller fish to target those bigger fish. So dead bait on the bottom right now. The water temps are really hot, so they're not moving around a lot. Not want to chase a live bait, so try a dead bait on the bottom. He's been having pretty good luck with that. The smaller fish are eating live pilchards, 20-pound fluorocarbon leader, 1-aught trocar circle hook, and those bigger fish he's using 40-pound fluorocarbon leader and a 3 to 4-aught trocar circle hook. And I've got a photo from Captain Jim of one of those beautiful big Paper Bay snook.
Nice. All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Moving offshore, Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charter reports a red grouper bite right now. The red grouper bite's been really good and on fire in 150 to 170 feet of water. He's using a bottom rig with 60 to 80-pound fluorocarbon leader, 6 to 8-aughts trocar circle hook, and 8 to 10 ounces of lead. Threadfin herring tipped with squid has been his go-to bait. Live baits are working well too, but he said his go-to bait is that cut bait little combo he's using. Captain Rob Davenport also reports out of St. Pete a good mangrove snapper bite right now in 40 to 7 feet of water over high relief structures. He's using a light line, 15 to 30 pound, 1-aught, 2-aught circle hook, and just enough lead to get the bait down. The key has been using a knocker rig, and the baits he's been using is small sardines, small pinfish, and live shrimp.
All right,
and the ticket.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate it very much. We're going to go and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. He says snook along the beaches and the passes use free line sardines for bait, and then offshore, the red groupers seem to be everywhere, Brie, in 75 to 130 feet of water over all the flat rock, and maybe check it out on some live rock bottom.
Enjoy that sunset there, Jeff. All right, Mike Holliday says it's time to head to the shoreline in the Fish Bites East region because redfish are hanging on the docks and the rocks. So, Mike, take us there.
That's pretty much what it is, Brie. You know, the best redfish action in my region takes place shorelines and docks of the Indian River in places like Harbor Branch, the Moorings Flats, and John's Island. like up on the northern end, St. Lucie and Indian River County. You'll also see fish in the St. Lucie and Loxahatchee rivers, but they're more of an incidental catch than a targeted species. We do see fish start to school up in September and October on the Sailfish Point Flats, on the J.C. Park Flats, and around the old inlet area of Fort Pierce. And one thing about redfish is they love the color gold. So you want to throw soft plastics with a gold glitter in it, like a golden brim or a molting color saltwater assassin salty snack, or a new penny colored shad or sea shad. You can also throw gold spoons and do really well, or a black back and gold belly colored topwater plug. And redfish, they eat just about anything. Live or dead shrimp work well, pilchards, crabs. Those are all good options. In my region, the average redfish is like 3 to 8 pounds every now and then we see one over 10, but most of them are those small schoolie size. And I got a great photo there. That's Jason Arman. He got that nice redfish while wading the docks along Walton Road. And that fish ate a saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shad.
Nice.
The other thing we got going, the largest fish of summer, the largest snook of summer, let me put it that way, are pushing into the inlets and along the beaches with this week's full moon. So the catch and release snook action is hitting its summer peak. The Hope Sound Wildlife Refuge, Bob Graham Beach, South Beach and Fort Pierce, and the Lake Worth and Juneau Piers. And obviously all the inlets are going to have fish right now. There's still some big fish that are coming from the spillways in Palm Beach County, and also some fish that are coming on the flats in the Loxahatchee River. If you're looking for a big fish, those are the places to go. But on the beaches and around the inlets, a saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shad is pretty much money on all those fish, as are live pilchards, redfins, or croakers. A lot of the fish are coming on dead baits in the heat of the day. If it's so hot, a dead bait sitting on the bottom, something that they can just suck right up. And it's been working pretty well, particularly around the inlets. Around the spillways, jigs are king. So like, an Artemis shad on a 1-ounce jig head, or a red-tail hawk is a good bait to throw as well. Topwater plugs are working on the flats and shorelines of both the Loxahatchee and the St. Lucie rivers right at dawn. Average snook in my region is going to be 10 to 12 pounds. I got a photo of Matteo Herrera with his first snook that he's ever caught. He got that in the St. Lucie Inlet on a live sardine.
Let's roll out a little deeper. Let's go offshore, bub.
Yeah, we're on the tail end of the summer sailfish bite, but anglers are catching fish in multiples from Palm Beach all the way up to Fort Pierce. The best action is taking place in 130 to 200 feet of water, but the fish are being caught as shallow as like 60 feet and then out as deep as 300 or 400 feet of water. So the fish are really spread out. They're still traveling in small pods of 2 to 6 fish. So if you hook a fish, you want to definitely keep a bait in the water if you can. See if you can turn that into multiples. The best action's coming on live sardines, pilchards, redfins, and goggle eyes, whether you're slow trolling them, drifting them, or fishing them on a kite. You can also troll ballyhoo and get a few fish as well. You want to make sure you put at least one bait down deep right now. The average sailfish is 40 to 50 pounds. And I have a photo that Scott Loper sent me. He got that sailfish in 130 feet of water east of St. Lucie Inlet, and that fish ate a live threadfin. The other bite we got going, the wahoo bite ramps up 4 days on either side of the full moon, and full moon is Wednesday, August 1st. The best action is off Palm Beach County in 200 to 400 feet of water, but you can catch them anywhere in my region right now. Most of the anglers catching wahoo right now are the ones that are targeting them. They're either high-speed trolling at dawn and dusk, or in the middle of the day, they're fishing wire lines or downrigger baits, or, a trolling weight just to get the bait down on the surface. This is a really good time to fish a red and black or purple and black R&R tackle wahoo magnet if you're going to high-speed troll. You can also troll a double-hook ballyhoo or swimming mullet, or a live blue runner or a small bonito. Put them out on wire with a 7.0 to 9.0 hook on them. I like to double hook them just because wahoo tend to short bite a lot, much like kingfish. Excuse me. And the average wahoo is 20 to 40 pounds. I have a photo of 11-year-old Jordan Medeiros. He got that nice wahoo in 130 feet of water off Palm Beach, and that fish ate a double hook ballyhoo with a pink and white skirt.
Yes, it sure did. All right, let's talk about some bass fishing, Mike.
Yeah, the key to feeding fish right now in Fellsmere, they have the Headwaters Lake, the Stick Marsh, and the Garcia Reservoir. If you can find the running water in any of those places, you're going to find the fish. Right now, there's a lot of water flowing into the stick marsh, but that reservoir is still a bit shallow to get a boat in to fish and to navigate safely. As they flood the stick marsh, the moving water coming from Garcia is pulling a lot of shad into the reservoir, and that's got the bass on the feed. I was talking to Captain Nathan Shellen of OkeechobeeBassFishing.com. He was fishing the dike of the stick marsh and going through 100 shiners a morning. He said it's all the bass you really want to get. You can also throw a lipless crankbait or bass that has some vapor shad in the alewife color. Really, any of the shad colors, anything that looks like a shad right now is going to work in that moving water. And Shellen said there's still a good topwater bite for big fish in headwaters, but you have to fish your lure super slow with long pauses. Frogs are working there as well. Average bass being caught in Fellsmere is 2 to 4 pounds, but there still are some big 6, 7, 8, 9 pounders being caught.
All right, Bud, thank you so much. Great report. We're going to take a look at the T&H Marine hotspots from the East region, inshore, tarpon, in the crossroad areas of Stewart, live crabs or mullet on the outgoing tide, and then offshore mangrove snappers in 70 to 80 feet of water off of Bethel Shoals. Brie use sardines, thread fins, and croakers on a 5-0 Trocar circle hook.
Very nice. All right, let's show our support for Florida's fisheries with a Conserve Florida Fisheries license plate. For just $25, proceeds for the redfish tag support protecting and enhancing Florida's saltwater marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. So make sure you get this beautiful edition at your local DMV or visit redfishtag.com. And it is party.
It sure is.
It sure is. All right, coming up is the Dynapack Southeast region, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Real Legends. Available at bellsflorida.com. Dynapack. Your partner on the road. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Power pole shallow water anchors aren't just for fishing. I use mine every day at the boat ramp. First, I get my bow rope ready and secured to my boat. Second, after the boat floats off the trailer, I walk the boat down the dock, push the back of the boat off the dock, and lower my power pole anchors. I then secure my bow line to hold the front of the boat. Using the power pole like this is a great way to prevent dings and dents and scratches on my boat and keeps my boat tight to the dock without having to tie 2 lines off. Another great way to use my power pole at the docks, especially when they're busy, is sometimes after a charter, I'll come to the ramp and every slot will be full of boats. But over to the east or west of the ramp, there'll be a beach. I take my bow of my boat and beach it, lower my 2 poles, climb out of my boat, go get my truck, back in an open slot, go back to my beach, jump in my boat, load it up on the trailer, and I'm out of there. And that is the power pole tip.
You know, Brie, now I know what happened to my keel on the old gray boat.
My boat, my poles, my boat, everything's mine. All right, the Dynapack Southeast region isn't known for its redfish bite, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. Here's Captain Jimbo Thomas with the ups and the downs. Hi, Jimbo.
Hey, Brie and Rick and everybody else. Yeah, you know, unfortunately, redfish are still a rare catch anywhere here in the Southeast region, and it's been a while since I've heard of any being caught or seen for that matter. The few that are caught in the region, and it's very few, are generally in South Biscayne Bay area from Matheson Hammock south to Card Sound along the western shoreline and usually around the mouths of the spillway canals. And then occasionally there's a redfish caught in the Lake Worth Lagoon in the north end of the region and not much in between. And just like redfish in the rest of the state, they can be caught on bucktails tipped with shrimp under a popping cork, jigs with soft plastics, gold spoons, and cut and live baits fished on the bottom. Few that have been caught here in South Biscayne Bay, at least by myself, have always been on live pilchards fished along the shoreline while we were snook fishing. Now, I got a photo here, and this is Bill Flynn with the Biscayne Bay Red that he caught on a pilchard while he was snook fishing, obviously in the dark there.
Nice.
And he caught a couple of them in that secret spot. Now, this is also prime time to target snook in the inlets. All of the inlets throughout the region have been holding snook. Many of these snook are over slot size, and it doesn't matter because it's catch and release either way. And most of the snook, they're being caught early in the mornings and late afternoons into the evenings. You want to drift live baits through the inlets, pilchards, pinfish, herring, croakers, fish them near the bottom on a Jupiter rig, or you can try bouncing R&R flare hawk jigs or jig heads with chartreuse tails along the bottom. That's been getting the bites. Or you can try trolling deep diving lures along the jetties and the ledges. Another great way to target these snook. Now, the outgoing tide has been the best unless the water has been murky, which it has not been murky in the last couple of days, as calm as it is. But if it is murky, they've been biting them both the incoming and the outgoing tide, as long as you got some moving water. Got another photo here. This is Jane Thomas and Dakota Rocher with a couple of catch and release Biscayne Bay snook.
Nice.
Now moving offshore, we've been finding dolphin, and in the past week we've had some okay days, and then we've had some days where we had to work really hard for a few fish. Fish have been holding on weed lines, patches of sargassum, and also just about anything floating. And most of the fish have had some birds working over the top of them, pointing them out for us. They've been in anywhere from about 500 feet of water on out to about 1,200 feet. Now, the fish are being caught on the troll with ballyhoos, small lures, and feathers. Once we locate the fish, been casting small live baits to them, pilchards, blue runners, and also cut bonita and ballyhoo on our spinning rods. And the fish have been mostly schoolies with a lot of short ones, but we've been managed to pull a few keepers up to about 8 pounds out of them, out of these schools. Got another photo here. This is Jason Kaufman with a gaffer dolphin caught aboard the Lisa L. That's one of the bigger ones we've seen the last few days.
Nice.
Now, moving in a little closer to shore, the nighttime mangrove snapper bite has been really going off. The mangroves, which have been in anywhere from like 2 to 7 pound range, they're being found on the outside reef in 40 to 80 feet of water, and they've been starting to bite most nights just after dark. You want to try to avoid anchoring on top of the reef, but instead look for a hard bottom with sea fans on the outside edge of the reef. Fish with a knocker rig. Use just enough weight to hold bottom. Use a 30-pound mono or fluoroleader and 1/0 to 3/0 hooks. And best baits have been cut sardines, ballyhoo plugs, and bonita. If you got any lights on the boat, there's going to be some baits coming up, most likely, pilchards and goggle eyes. You can sabiki those up, put them down live or cut down back on the bottom. Those have been getting some of the larger fish.
So, Jimbo, we got time for a quick question. So my question is, at nighttime, these mangrove snappers is when you really catch the big ones. What's the big mistake that everybody makes and why they're not catching them?
I think putting out a lot of ground chum is a big mistake because that's going to attract a lot of small stuff and also a lot of sharks. As we know, sharks have been a huge issue everywhere. So fishing just your cut bait on the bottom, if you're going to chum with cut bait instead of ground chum. I think that's one of the biggest pluses to catch some of these bigger ones.
So do you have to worry about your leader size as much in the dark?
Not so much. I mean, and they have been catching them in the day as well. But, some of those fish, they can see pretty good in the dark as well. So if you're not getting bites on some heavier leader, it's not a bad idea to try and scale down, see if that'll get you some more bites.
All right, bud, thank you so much for clearing that up for us. We're going to take a look at the Black Oak LED hotspots from the southeast region. He says, look for the snook in all the inlets and off of the beaches in the early morning and in the evenings, where they are eating both live and artificial baits. And then offshore, look for a variety of snappers along the edges of the outside reefs, fishing live and cut baits in the evening time.
And
keep it cool, go dark.
Keep it cool. Exactly. All right, red fishing with y'all has been real, but it's time we close out one of Florida's favorite inshore species and tell you what we're catching next week, so stay with us. We'll be right back. What do you think it is, Rick?
I don't know.
Where are we going? Okay, so next week we are the Yeep Drop-In, so make sure you tune in. It's going to be fun. Ronnie, thank you so much for being here with us this week, talking about redfish.
Deep drop.
It's been a pleasure. Hopefully somebody learned something.
So I got a question for you. This time of year, sometimes you fish the Tamiami Trail. How's that fishing right now?
You know, we got a bad situation on the southwest coast of Florida. We are not getting the rain. June, July, we should be getting rain. Here we are into August. We're not getting the flow of water from north to the south. Plus the change of the water flow going to the south towards your neck of the woods is also hurting us. So no water, no flow, no snook.
All right, that's a good answer. But, all right, so there's something to look for as we get this rain.
Right.
Something to think of. That's a good key, guys.
We'll check back
Thanks
in
for
with
coming
you,
over,
Ronnie.
Midnight. It's always good to see you, my
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Get out there this weekend, guys. Stay cool, stay hydrated. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.